How's it going today, everyone? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the more controversial discussions in the One Piece community, that being titles. Titles being given to characters or things that show a level of status or power or whatever they may represent. And I'm here to tell you, all titles in One Piece are not built the same. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so I'm sure y'all aware of the big three titles in One Piece, and these belong to the world's strongest man, Edward Newgate, aka Whitebeard, the world's strongest swordsman, Dracula Mihawk, and the world's strongest creature, Kaido. These are really the main three you will see brought up in conversations surrounding this topic, and it makes sense as these are the most prominent ones in the story. But there are some others that could hold some weight in the same vein as those, but we'll cover that after these first three. So first, let's get into Edward Newgate's title of the world's strongest man. So for Whitebeard's World's Strongest Man title, that is of course the most notorious title in One Piece, which is ever only shown to be authentic. As we see, the narrator states his title in the manga as he appears on screen, the World's Strongest Man. And for anyone potentially having an issue with this, there's no reason not to believe this, as the narrator is only here to give information for the character or event happening on the page, which means the narrator would have no bias or bias against any character. And this is done all the time. Here's just a few of probably hundreds and hundreds of examples in the manga. So to assume this one wouldn't be truthful out of all of them would just be dishonest in my personal opinion. And this is very important to pay attention to right now, as this will come back up for someone later. So yeah, as we know, Whitebeard was given this title during the prime of his strength, during the times which the likes of Roger was roaming the seas contending with him, who's considered to be among the top in history and power amongst everyone. So the most impressive things from Whitebeard is his overwhelming strength and haki, but most notably his devil fruit, which in terms of destruction is by far the most powerful one we have seen, being noted to potentially be able to destroy the world. And there is really no other fruit hyped to that point in terms of just destructive capability. Now, before I end off on this, there is a time where characters refer to him as the world's strongest in Marineford, which we knew wasn't the case, but they weren't aware of his condition and still thought of the Whitebeard from past times. We can see as the word goes on, characters start to bring Whitebeard into question as they figure out he's not what he once was. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Whitebeard's title is solidified. If you guys disagree, let me know why y'all think so. Now, let's talk about Kaido. So, when discussing Kaido's World's Strongest Creature title, this can really be looked at in two different ways. And the first way you can look at it is, well, Kaido's title is in reference to creatures, that being only non-human species. And when Law had brought this up to Luffy, noting him as often being given this title by other people, Nami implies this as well, bringing up the question that he isn't human. And if Nami's reaction to this isn't enough for you, Big Mom later on refers to Kaido as something abnormal, once again calling him a thing. And yes, I know Kaido is an Oni. I just wanted to show when his status is brought up, he's referred to as non-human-like, or a thing as Big Mom would say. Now you may be saying Kaido's title is in the clear. Well, no. In every situation Kaido's title is brought up, it's in a legend type of way. Things being said such as people say Kaido is the strongest, or he is often called the strongest. Even the narrator I brought up earlier says this in a way that is showing it is not factual, but some people do believe this, and is never really concretely confirmed. But there is one statement by the narrator clarifying this title to be actually referring to every living creature in the world, and once again he is said to be the world's strongest creature. To finalize, you could look at it two ways. Either his title is talking about non-humans only, or human-like species, or every species is taken into account, including humans. Regardless, I don't think it should be taken literally, as it is never directly confirmed, and every time it is brought up, it's brought up with some level of uncertainty. Truly, I think it, along with Kaido, was used as hype, which absolutely worked, and tested every pirate in Wano. But yeah, that's my take on Kaido's title. Alright, moving over to the world's strongest swordsman, Dracula Mihawk. So Mihawk's title is definitely the most controversial / hated title in One Piece. That's because it comes into conflict with a certain fandom of a red-haired individual who I shall not name in this video. I won't spend too much time on this anyways, watch my last video if you want a full in-depth breakdown. Mihawk's title has constantly been reassured to us throughout the story, as well as the One Piece data books which are canon to the story as well. And he wields the strongest sword in the world as stated here. Some One Piece fans will bring up Mihawk's lack of feats. And to that I'll ask you, how often, if ever, do we see top tiers go all out in One Piece? The answer is very, very rarely. Anyways, the main reason above all of this showing Mihawk's title is completely valid is the narrative importance of that title and Mihawk to Roa no Zoro. Since the early chapters, his goal was to become the strongest swordsman in the world, training extremely hard to unlock new abilities, get new blades, and unlocking the highest form of haki we've seen in the series so far. And all of this will culminate in Zoro dethroning the strongest swordsman in the world, unless you believe Zoro will not reach his goal, and or Mihawk isn't the strongest swordsman and him beating Mihawk would be meaningless. You know, despite this being built up for over 1,000 chapters as an endgame for Zoro's character, to fulfill his and his former rival's dream. So to assume Oda has been lying and Zoro's been training for nothing is something I'll never understand. But with that being said, Mihawk is without a doubt the world's strongest swordsman. Monkey D. Dragon, the world's worst criminal and presumably the most wanted man in the world, is always interesting to talk about. As we know, Dragon was once a part of the Marines and knows the atrocities that went down there, which in turn would lead him to leave as he believed there is not true justice there, and later on would form the Revolutionary Army, which directly opposes the world government and everything it goes against. So we have him having knowledge and him opposing the government, with those being the only absolute facts we have. And these go into him being the world's worst criminal, as well as him being a D-Clan member. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. For him to have this unforeseen knowledge of the world government, personally I believe he had to be of a higher rank. Potentially on the verge of becoming an admiral, or maybe he was one, which automatically should place him in some higher tier of power. To add on to this, as I mentioned, he is a D-Clan member, and every notorious D-Clan member we have seen has been extremely powerful, from Garp, to Luffy, to Roger, to Law, to Blackbeard, etc, etc. Regardless of what anyone thinks, the revolutionaries will have to face the government head on at some point, and I don't think it would make any sense, in my opinion, for Dragon to not be at a top tier level. Now, am I saying he would come and beat Akainu? No, absolutely not, but that's just my headcanon that makes sense to me. And that's pretty much all there is to Dragon right now. I'm just trying to present what I think makes sense. I'm willing to listen to anybody's theories or headcanons in the comments. Also, him being the worst criminal and the most wanted man would almost certainly means he has the highest bounty, and every top tier bounty besides Buggy is insanely powerful. So do with that what you want. But yeah, Dragon's title for what we know is valid. It's just whether you think it's purely what he knows or does, or does strength also play a major part into. To summarize as I open this video, all titles are not built the same. I hope I presented my thoughts on this in a way that wasn't disingenuous, and I really tried to make what I believe and interpret to make sense to everyone watching. As usual, y'all have every right to disagree, so let me know what y'all agree or disagree with. If you liked the video, like the video. If you didn't, don't. Any viewers or content creators wanting to interact or contact me, you can follow me on Twitter. Here's that on screen. But yeah, that's all from me. Peace.